Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Scott Marshall. Scott, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Aaron, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, I have yet to say this on the podcast. I'm over 70 episodes in, but never have I been so upset at myself for meeting a guest via this podcast platform and not via their profession or their claim to fame or the business that they founded, because I feel like I really, really missed out. Anyone who's watching on the banner, and we'll get into this behind you, of Semester at Sea. Although I might have just spent my time seasick, but I feel like I missed out. I missed out on something. So I'm not going to try to relive it now because, 37 with 5 kids, can't go back. But it's really an honor and a pleasure to have you.
Aaron, well, let me just tell you, you're and your wife and your 5 kids at some point in time, when the youngest is 5 or better, may choose to be lifelong learners on the voyage, because we do have the option for lifelong learners to go. So just put that in your line of sight.
Okay, I was not going to start with this. I didn't even know that existed, but tell us more, because I'm guessing our listeners, we should have one second. You mean to tell me that a guy with 5 kids can come on Semester C?
Yes, they can.
Give me the 30-second elevator pitch on that.
Very short. You want you and your family to have an experience that will bond you better than anything else, that will create memories that will last their entire lives, beyond the life of their parents. This is the opportunity. Semester C primary market is college students. However, we do bring what we call lifelong learners on the ship. They are generally professionals that take sabbatical or are retired. They want an experience unlike any other. They like the learning atmosphere. So they reserve a spot. They get a cabin, or 2 in your case, for sure. You don't want them all in one cabin. You and your wife figure out who's going to attend what class as an audit when you can. Someone's a caretaker. The other one goes to a class in audits. The other is the caretaker and switch off. You go to 10 countries over 105 days. You get to live the college experience, but as adults.
I'm not even sure I could keep up, but we digress. That was way before the grace. Okay, so you went from being a college professor, I believe, to coming up with the insanely awesome, nutty.
Not my idea.
Not your idea.
No. I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy.
So how do you go from college professor to Semester at Sea? Take us through that. Take us back. Like, where did the drive to do crazy things like 10 countries in 105 days? Like, that's not, I don't want to say it's not normal, but I want to say that the average 7, 12-year-old, 20-year-old, when they think about their career, it doesn't have a Semester at Sea flag behind them.
Yeah, well, let's hope more and more do. So, first of all, the program is older than I am. The program was founded in 1963. I was founded in 1967. So it has a deeper history.
Vintage.
Yeah, it's a great vintage. I'm proud of it. I'm not sure if it get better with age, but it's a good vintage nonetheless. So we go back to 1963. There was definitely some people back there who really had a vision for how to take people to see the world, to understand it more deeply. Really visionaries, because of course, nothing around computers, the internet, there was airplanes traveling, but it was pretty exclusive. So we're going to put some college kids on a ship and we're going to show them cultures around the world and have them come back with a sense, people and the earth, that no one else has. And we've lived into that core for over 60 years. We still live to that vision. Now, mine is a bit different story, but in some ways, similarly, just sort of preposterous, I suppose. In my 30s, I got a PhD, went into higher ed, did the professorial track, did publishing, did teaching, did all that, got into administrative roles. But Aaron, maybe you understand this. Sometimes you just have a feeling this isn't quite the right fit. The pace of change wasn't quite matching what I like in terms of a pace of change. The ability to really focus exclusively on student success. It's not that universities don't, but they have many missions, research, and other things. I was compelled all the time around student success. And third, I've been an internationalist almost my entire life. I love seeing the world. I love exploring it. So how did I end up here? I get across a listserv, an email that says there's this faculty position available on this thing called Semester C, which I'd never heard of at the time. This is the summer of 2016. Even though I'd traveled the world, done a lot of stuff, I'd never heard of it. I forward it to my wife. Should I apply? She says yes. I apply. Go fast forward to January of 2017. My wife, 2 boys, and I are boarding a ship in San Diego. We're off for 3.5 months. We have this extraordinary experience. And in October of that same year, 2017, I joined this organization, this very small nonprofit, as a vice president. And in January 20, which we can go into as well, January 20, I become the president. You can imagine what the next 6 months looked like.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Was there a semester? Were you mid-semester?
We were.
Did you get stuck on the boat?
First of all, Aaron, for your audience, not for you, but for your audience, let's call it a ship.
A ship.
Yeah. Ships carry boats. Ships carry boats.
Ships carry boats.
Yeah.
Oh, my father should rest in peace. We were we're heavily involved in the medical professional liability world. And if you wanted to drive him crazy, you would say emergency room, not emergency department. So I feel like I just did that. I feel like that I just stepped right into that. So was everyone stuck on the ship? No, I meant was everyone stuck on boats? Like, did you divide them to the little boats that carried the ship? You see what I did there?
Yeah, well done. Yeah.
Did everyone get like an extra semester because there was lockdown?
So I'm going to try to keep this brief because you can imagine what the story in depth is. We did board a full ship in January of 2020. They left out of Ensenada, Mexico. They get to Hawaii for a day. They head to Japan. About that time, we're starting to hear about this pneumonia-like virus in some part of China, but it's spreading. Chinese Ministry of Health declaring some kind of state of concern. So we decide not to go to Shanghai. We go to Vietnam. Long story short, that was an extraordinarily different voyage for our voyagers and, of course, for my team and I. We got everybody off in Cape Town, South Africa, and got them home in middle of March when the World Health Organization called it a global pandemic. And so we did give them the opportunity to come back on discount in the future. Many have exercised that opportunity.
Is the whole ship, people part of your program?
Yes. We lease one ship, and that is our home campus.
Okay, so I want to. This wasn't my original plan when we scheduled this podcast, but I feel like this is the opportunity.
Yeah.
You said that you craved experience. You said that you craved the life experience, the pace, that wasn't in the classroom. The traditional university on campus, just like the traditional in office idea, is, I don't want to say it's under attack, is being questioned, is having to reinvent itself. Yeah. Now, a lot of that happened as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, but a lot of it is technology and things like that. I imagine that the experience of semester at sea is hotter than ever, is more popular than ever, is playing right into that drive of many young people, in that it's not just taking online classes from home, meaning ditching the whole university, not ditching the college thing and saying, I don't need higher education, I don't need a degree altogether. But it's also saying, like, the idea of sitting for 4 years on a campus in a dorm, not experiencing the world, not experiencing life, not experiencing what other people would call crazy during my off hours, right?
Yeah.
Meaning semester C still has classes, right?
That's right.
But it's, what are you doing when you're not in class? You're not sitting in your dorm room staring at the four walls because you've just anchored in Japan. So what nutcase would sit in their room? You know what I mean?
That's right.
So what do you say about that as an experience and going forward, and how people are being inspired and changing people's lives and view of things in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah. So there's a lot in what you said there, Aaron. I'm going to try to address it the best I can. First of all, The answer is yes and no. Is it hotter than ever? So do people, particularly this younger generation, seek this type of experience? 100%. 100%. The balance on that is there's a sense, particularly if anybody's reading any media, of a lot of insecurity, unpredictability in the world. And so to some degree, either that's some parents or themselves that are feeling like, maybe I'm better off walking from my dorm room to my classroom, to my dorm room to my classroom. So there's a balance, in terms of how people are viewing the world and how they want to live within that world. Now, of course, those who are on that ship, they've got an inner sense of curiosity and at least an ounce of courage, and their lives change in ways that you just can't imagine. They can't imagine. Like we sell 10 countries, adventure learning and all that, and they don't know to the degree to which that 3.5 months is going to profoundly change their lives. There's just nothing like it, for good reason. There's only one.
Do you think that the average young adult, let's take out people who are petrified of the sea or who don't want it or have zero interest in travel. Let's take out those types of people. But the average 20-something-year-old, how do you think they can benefit forever?
Yeah.
From, you said 101 days?
Yeah. 105.
105 days. From these 105 days, what I'm getting from you are, you believe, and you're passionate about, and that's what the not-for-profit is about, that these 105 days will be the most formative 105 days of their lives.
No
Anybody
doubt.
who gets there.
I hear it over and over from our alumni who sailed 5, 10, 15, 50 years ago. I hear it over and over. Well, there's just no way to imitate or replicate this type of experience. So the vast majority of people will get on that ship without knowing anybody. So first of all, you've taken a step out of your own comfort zone, right? Okay, I'm leaving my family, my dorm, my colleagues, and I'm going into an environment. Within a few weeks, you will form bonds that very likely will last your lifetime. Where else does that happen? Second of all, you'll have a community of people who come from across the US and around the world. And you'll be with that community very intensely for that 105 days. Where else does that happen? Third, in today's world in particular, we're so connected. Now, people can stay connected a bit on the ship, but what you'll find, even on the ship right now, as it sails in the Pacific Ocean today, you'll find kids playing card games. They'll play Catan, they'll play Dungeons and Dragons, they'll play nickel poker. How often do you see that these days among the college students? So you form a community that you just cannot replicate. And frankly, it doesn't exist back here. It doesn't happen. And that's the power that cements people's lives in a way that'll last forever.
I assume that you believe, just like it says behind you, that never stop exploring.
Yeah.
That people should be exploring. And again, if the sea's not for someone, I'm sure that I say, and this podcast is about the fact that everybody can define their own hustle. So I would say, speaking to you, I'm guessing you'll say everyone should seek and define and explore their own exploration, for lack of a better term. Do you think that that's something that parents and that educators need to be pushing more and better today? Can we do a better job of it? Do you think that by not doing it, we're negatively impacting our children and our students? How do you think it can positively impact? People are so afraid to explore. I think it's weird. I think it's strange. I think it's nuts to leave their friends and family and go on a ship for 105 days. So what does that mean to you? And where do you think that we could see that growth the most and how does that help our future? I mean, how does the exploration of taking the leap and going on the ship then translate into the future and our future leaders and our future and these people's future?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer that in 3 parts. I'm going to start at the micro, and then I'm going to go to the macro, and then I'm going to pull it together for you with semester C and future employment opportunities and employers and so forth. First of all, just a little bit of basic science. Our brains are social brains. They always have been social brains. They don't exist in isolation within ourselves. We have to build the capacity for greater collaboration, empathy, compassion. It is not just for the other person, it's for our own health as well. We have to have that, right? So that's just at the core. Being within a single dorm room or, self-isolating or any of that is simply not healthy for any human being. We have to connect with people. Second, at the large scale, at the macro scale, believe it or not, there's just one Earth. There's just one, right? That's it. I'd love to tell you we're going to live in Mars in 10 years, but it ain't going to happen.
I'm waiting for a semester on Mars.
No, yeah.
That's something that I might lifelong learn to. Now
Okay, yeah. I don't have much faith in the Mars habitability. So there's one Earth. And for generations to come, there'll be one Earth. So if we want to take care of this thing that really is our home, we should get to know it. We should understand it. And sitting only in Fort Collins or only on Manhattan Island, if you're only doing that, you cannot understand the world. You can't. I'm sorry. No matter what you read, no matter what videos you watch, you can't understand the world. So go see it. Okay. So put those things together. Social brain, got to see the world to understand it. This model right here, it is the best model. Now, you can say, I'm biased. I work here. It's where I get my paycheck. It's everything. But give me a better model. Show me a better model. Send this out to your audience and let's get the comments going. Someone has sent me a better model for how people connect their social brains and understand the world. A better model than Semester C. Give it to me, because it doesn't exist.
So why don't you think? So your application should be. You shouldn't have a stack of books behind you. You should have just stacks and stacks and stacks of applications. Why do you think people are afraid to do it? Don't say the cost. Don't say the cost, because plenty of people put themselves into crazier debt to go to just a regular 4-year university. So And this is a semester. So don't say that.
Yeah, I won't say that. I think that, let's go back to the traditional U.S. study abroad architecture that exists still today. So where do you think, Aaron, 70 to 80% of U.S. students study abroad?
Europe.
Exactly. Now, where are the top 3 of the top 5 economies?
Europe.
In the world? No. Asia.
Shoot, I knew that.
Yeah. So do we have the right model for people to really understand the world right now? This goes to your safety thing. Oh, I'm going to study abroad, but guess what? I'm going to go to Milan.
Right. Or I'm going to go to London because it's kind of like Chicago.
Yeah. And guess what I'm going to do every night? Fish and chips and ale. Now,
I have a brother that studied in Japan, so he wins.
I like your brother. I should meet him because I did the same thing.
He's a world traveler. He backpacked Africa. He's a total nutcase, but in the best possible way.
Yeah,
possible way. But I hear you. I feel that there's something in people, and I can tell you, doing this now for a year and a half, this keep hustling thing, the people that reach out to me, there's just so many people know what they should be doing, know what they should be chasing, know that yes, there are risks in the world, but that risk reward is worth the risk, and that they don't take it.
Yeah.
They don't do the keep hustling. They don't explore. They stop. They don't, you say, find me a better model. They research it. They know the model's the best, and then they still don't apply.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Why? Again, I want to take out health challenges, and I want to take out the people that can't. But I'm sure that there are plenty of people that say, this is the best model, but I can't be on a ship for 105 days. But what if I get food poisoning? But what if this? Or but what if the ship sinks? Or, and by the way, I'm assuming you're going to tell me that the statistics are higher that I get into a fatal car accident than the ship sinking. So I got that part. And you can be airlifted from a ship the same way you can be airlifted from anywhere else. I got. Yeah. But yet when people can use those excuses to stop exploring or to stop hustling, they allow that.
You bet.
And I'm trying to figure out why.
Well, Aaron, you've listened to a lot of people. I think you actually know the answer, but I'll give you the very simple one. Human species are also just risk averse. They perceive risk much higher and actually to an illusory state than exists. And that's how we're built. So it has to take, it's time, it's nurturing. People have to be around them, that they see models. They have to have a household that showed them how to take some risks. And frankly, they have to breathe and pause when they are watching media, because there is so little truth in our media today, right? There's just so much, and it's fear. It's all about fear. And that's really unfortunate as well.
I assume you have a lot of siblings, probably, meaning that when one takes the leap, the rest follow.
I'd love to tell you that it was my siblings who inspired me. I was the first one to get a passport.
No, I'm saying on semester at sea.
Yeah, we do have legacy students for sure. Yeah,
I imagine
yeah,
that like
yeah,
if my brother did it and I see how awesome of a time he had,
yeah.
I would, and he gets through all the taboo stuff and all that, voodoo and the ship's going to sink,
Yeah.
then, that's what I meant. But yes.
Yeah. And let me tell you, there's no safer home campus than a ship. Just so you know, let me put that out there to all your listeners. No safer home campus.
Dude, you must have some like great stories. What, like, did you have a favorite outcome or a favorite thing that happened on the ship, or person who had a personal experience that one of your students had, or something like that you can share? I don't know. There's got to be something crazy that happened.
Yeah. There's so many stories. We've had people who sailed so many years ago, and I hear their stories that they still tell today. So about 4 months ago, I was down in the LA area, and I had a meal with two alums. Now, they didn't meet on the ship, but they actually sailed different voyages. And this is just a cool story. This isn't like, mysterious or anything. It's just a cool story, right? So they sailed different voyages. They sailed 2 years apart. They meet at a semester C alumni gathering about 8 years later. Okay. And they're telling me the story about how when they were sharing their semester C stories, different voyages, 2 years apart, didn't know each other, the things they did in country were almost identical. So they were like shadowing each other without knowing it. And they meet like 8 years later, and they're sitting there talking about their voyages and what you do in this country. No way, I did that too. And of course, they've been married now for
Wow.
35, 40 years. So that's just like kismet, the cosmos working in funky ways. Really kind of fun, right?
I love that. And now their kid is doing the same, retracing their parents' steps on a voyage at semester at sea, and their kid is upset because you swapped out one place that you dock, and now they can't go to that one restaurant or that one place that their father proposed on a mountaintop in wherever. I feel like the never stop exploring thing gets me to keep hustling. And I feel that people are so afraid. We give so much stock to comfort. And this is a way of doing it in a comfortable way. I think people underestimate how comfortable the ship probably is my guess.
Can I say it a little different way? I think it has the same meaning. I like to talk about safe, but often uncomfortable, right? So don't be concerned about your physical well-being. Like, you're going to be fed well. We're going to make sure we vet everything. We got doctors on board. We got mental health professionals on board. We have student affairs. You're safe. But being a little bit uncomfortable, or being a lot uncomfortable occasionally, is super good for a human being. We don't grow when we're comfortable. We don't learn when we're comfortable, right?
I've said before on the podcast, diamonds come from the greatest pressure, right? The diamond mines have the greatest pressure. So
yeah, and to your other point, so people, we humans also like certainty, we like predictability, and the world is not certain and the world's not predictable. So how do we get more comfortable with what is not to be expected?
Well, that's what I was just thinking is like the even though, again, I agree with you. I think that the semester at sea will take physical safety, we'll take all that stuff, and we'll call it even, if not better. You're saying better, I'll call it even, just for the sake of the conversation.
I'm good.
Yet people know that, but they still, because it's uncomfortable, because it's not. It's almost like if you told someone that the stateroom, is that what it's called on a ship? Did I nail that?
Cabins.
The cabin on the ship will be larger, let's just say, or the bathroom will be larger than in their dorm room, let's just say. And they'll say, and nicer or newer or whatever. And they'll say, yeah, but it's not as nice as a dorm, because it's on a ship and it's got to be more compact. I'm not going to have room. Let's just say that people will convince themselves of things in order to hide from that exploration. And I think that what you were saying before about the world being uncertain, I think that the most powerful about that is that I would venture to say that whether it's at semester at sea or elsewhere, those people that are willing to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Again, I think that you're correct. Not unsafe, not dangerous,
right?
But pressure, discomfort, that's the greatest thing going forward. And somebody even willing to take that psychological leap of a bag on a ship and the ship pulling away, not their parents pulling away from the college dorm, but the ship drifting off into sea.
Yeah.
Even though it's safe. But in their mind, they're like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, I'm not going to be at sea. Like, I'm 2 days from now, we're going to be in the middle of the ocean. I feel like that really can positively impact people much more than it will negatively.
Yeah. Very positive impact. So I'd love to explore this with you more. I mean, keep hustling, right? Keep hustling. I've listened to a number of your podcasts, quite a few actually. I've really enjoyed it. The way you frame keep hustling for a variety of guests. What I've heard is that it is about taking chances. It's about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I want to give you a couple examples if you don't mind. First of all, just a personal example. As you noted early in the podcast, I was in academics for a long time, and I wasn't necessarily comfortable there. It was a growing opportunity. I was a full professor. I had tenure, was part of a good public retirement system. And in leaving that organization, I walked away from guaranteed employment called tenure. I walked away from full professor, which is a point of distinction. I left a great public employees retirement system, and I joined a very small nonprofit that lives or dies on the revenue it generates every year.
You're crazy.
And I'm not suggesting everybody keep hustling.
No, I hear that.
Keep hustling like that.
And yet you don't regret it for a second.
I don't regret it for a second. It was so freeing for me. It's a better fit for me. I'm physically, mentally, spiritually healthier as a result. And I don't look back. It's not a critique of higher ed. It's just a assessment of fit for me and taking a big chance. The second thing I just want to share with you, some people do call our business model preposterous. And I think they're kind of right. And you've got to keep hustling like crazy to keep this business model alive. It's a small nonprofit, right? 501c3. 90% of our revenue is tuition, room, and board. We run 2 voyages a year in which generate that revenue. Butts and beds is our source of revenue. Now, they're brilliant students. I hate to use that term, but it's kind of colloquial. It's getting people inspired to take that chance you're talking about, to hustle, to take the leap, because there's nothing like it, and it will change your life forever.
I love that. I think there's no better message to end the episode in that. And I think what you're saying, that you believe and I believe that semester at sea is for more people than actually take it. But everybody has that semester at sea opportunity in their life. Everybody. And that's why I was saying, don't take it because it's too expensive. Meaning everybody has their own way of saying, in a, as you said, a safe and healthy way, taking the risk, taking the leap, going outside the traditional comfort zone. And that's where they can see the most success. And that's what we have to inspire people to do, is to never stop exploring and to keep hustling. So I love it. You know what we should do? Hopefully one day when the podcast takes off, I would love to do, this is toying in my head here. I would love to do a recording or some interview or some content for the Keep Hustling podcast with some students as they are departing on their voyage.
Okay.
And as they're returning. And I think maybe if it's not for the Keep Hustling podcast, you should totally do that and let them talk about how it changed them, because I believe that those 105 days will be more transformative than the average college semester.
I'll send you a follow-up to see how we can make that happen.
You're the best. Scott, I really appreciate you being here. As I mentioned, and as our listeners know, we end every episode by asking our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational or inspirational quote. With that, again, I'll say thank you to Scott. Everyone should check out Semester at Sea. Everyone should never stop exploring, and everyone should always keep hustling. And with that, I turn the floor over to you, Scott.
I'm just going to choose a phrase from the Desiderata, which actually is fairly long. There's a lot of words in it, but there's near the ending, there's just a phrase that I think helps with dealing with confusion and stress and so forth. It goes something like this. I may not get exactly right, Aaron. Whatever your labors and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of the world, keep peace with your soul.
I love that. Keep peace?
Keep peace with your soul. Whatever your soul, this is not meant to be a religious thing. This is whatever your soul is, amidst the noise and confusion.
I love it.
Whatever your labors, keep peace with your soul.
And never stop exploring. And
never stop exploring. You thought I was going to say something about exploring, but
no, I love that. No, I think it all goes together.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Scott, thank you again. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.